Yeah, you gonna be there? I could be there in an hour or two, Barry.
Well, they'll definitely come down. That'll make it a lot more fun.
It's worth it just for me to get a good steak and hang out with Barry for an hour or two. What's up, Resource Nation? Barry is in Vegas. I'm here in Seattle. And guess what? We got back-to-back amazing calls and speakers to start off 2023. Barry, hot off a talk. You're in Vegas still. Thanks for stepping out and hanging out with us for a few minutes.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be with you, brother. You do so much good work. It's great, the work that you do and the behind the scenes team of RC and Eric, the great stuff that they
Yeah,
put together. So any chance I get to be with you is a good day.
good shit out. We were talking about just jumping on a flight to go hang out with you in Vegas for an hour or two. It'd be worth it to me, but let's knock out this show first and then we can talk about it. Dude, 2023 started off kind of how 22 ended. Things are kind of rough and I think they're turning a corner. I really want to pick your brain on this, but things are rough. And the good news is back in June of last year, you actually called the November 10th date and nailed it. Nobody else was talking about it. No other person was talking about it. No other outlet was talking about it. And you crushed it. And since then, I think rates have, MBSs have improved close to 300 basis points. Absolutely crushed it. You and I were talking in the green room the other day. You're like, hey, Ryan, I got another date. I want to share it with the Resource Nation. I said, absolutely, let's do it. So I want to get to some really good news. But man, 23 starting off crazy. Garth last week talked about 40% of loan officers have already not renewed their license, which is a huge bummer. M&A activity, 50 of them last year, maybe 50 more acquisitions this year. I'm hoping that the worst is behind us, and I feel like you may have some good news to point to that. But talk to us about May 10th. That's your new call. And also, am I feeling this right? Is the worst behind us? Do we have a little bit ahead? I'll throw it to you, and then we'll unpack it all, man.
I'm optimistic, and it's not just because I have an optimistic outlook. There's a lot of reason to be, and a lot of work that we put into it that supports this. So, a few things. Thank you. Yes, we did make a good call, and what I did also go over with you is we said first quarter of this year looked like to us that we'd be at around 5%. I'm still feeling pretty good about that, but maybe it might be delayed just a little bit because there's a couple of things that have happened. We got that $1.7 trillion spending package. The market didn't love that. So there's always these factors that can shape things a little bit differently, but we're still on track. I think certainly within the first half of the year, maybe we get below 5%, but I want to show you the rationale why. And it's what helped us make that call for that, big 206 basis point move we had on November 10th. There's something similar that's in the works and coming up. Overall, first of all, in the marketplace, we already see builder sentiment slightly improved. That's a good thing. We already see that there is an uptick in applications. That's good, but that's because rates have come down like 1.125% so far. So we're starting to see that happen. The last time we were on together, we talked about the spread between the 10-year Treasury and mortgage-backed securities was 300 basis points. I said that's going to narrow, and sure enough, it has. It's now about 260 basis points. That will come down and shrink and shrink and shrink as rates come down, servicing value gets added, and we'll get back to a more normal in the range of 200 basis points. And that should help us because the 10-year Treasury, don't look now, but we're already in that 3.4 range. Remember, it was like, 4 and change. I said that was going to come down. And as that's come down, mortgage rates have come down faster. So I think we get to 3. I think we get under 3 on the 10-year Treasury. And that should get mortgage rates to right around that 5%. That's why we said it was going to be right around 5%. So let's show a couple of quick charts here. And let's talk about where we are and where we're heading and why. I think more importantly, so people could see it and understand it and explain it to their customers. Because look, here's the thing. Right, we have to make sure we get this 100% down. There's a lot of talk about housing bubble and all this devastation. First of all, during recessions, rates drop, okay? And we are also seeing during recessions, housing does well. And that has a lot to do with the fact of the relationship between interest rates and housing. We have to look at the basics. The supply of homes out there is not that great. Builders got the data this morning, 1.4 million completed homes is the pace that they're doing. That we should be at about 1.5, 1.6 million formations. So there's more demand than supply, but they've been hibernating when rates went up and prices have gone up. So they're just hibernating, but they're not going to be living with mom and dad forever. These households will get formed. And the catalyst for that happens when interest rates drop a little bit. So there's only 690,000 active listings. That's it, 690,000. That's not a lot. So what happens when you crank up volume by seeing interest rates drop and you enter all of these new buyers into an environment where there is very low inventory, it's going to be supportive of pricing. So from the investment standpoint, real estate's a good investment. It's a good opportunity. We just got to show that to our customers. So we talked about this. What's going to drive interest rates lower? Well, lower inflation. We talked about this many times. Inflation is what drives mortgage rates and any long-term interest rate. So it's not the Fed. The Fed's hiked rates 1.25% at the same time that mortgage rates have come down almost 1.25%. So just like we've been saying, it's not the Fed, it's inflation because inflation's come down. So here's a quick look at inflation. And when we take a peek at it, we see that on this chart here, this shows you that the core CPI, which we talked about, strips out food and energy. We know why, because the Fed can influence this. They can influence food and energy. It's 5.7% year over year. And it's made up of the most recent 12 months of data we've received. So, back in June, when we made that call, everybody was saying inflation's peaked. It's because June of 2022, which you see here, replaced June of 2021. As new data comes in, it replaces the older data. So the most recent 12 months is adding up to 5.7%, account for a little rounding. So we knew that the June numbers certainly made year over year inflation drop, but we were not convinced. We thought it was going to be a brutal summer due to the fact that while we didn't know at the time what the reports would be for the months that would follow, we didn't think that inflation was ready to kind of take a backseat just yet, because this was the first time the Fed hiked 75 basis points. And it takes time for you to feel the pinch of
Right.
those interest rates. And when you think about it, if it costs me more to service debt, or if it costs me more to buy things and finance it, that leaves me less discretionary income to go out to dinner, to buy clothes, so it takes time for that to filter through. And we felt by October that would start to happen. And as it turned out, we were good on that call. But the reason why we didn't feel that inflation had nearly peaked is because while we didn't know what the future held, we knew what the past was.
Yep.
So we knew that as the numbers were going to come out for July, August, and September, it was going to replace the 2021 numbers of July, August, and September, which, as you could see, Ryan, and we've talked about this, and you can see these were very low bars. So we thought that the numbers would be higher, replacing lower numbers, causing the year-over-year inflation to rise and causing mortgage rates to rise. And it did that. And mortgage rates went up a little over 1%. But then we pointed to that November 10th date is because, A, we thought that inflation would come down, and it did. But even more importantly, we started to see where the numbers that were going to be replaced were at a higher benchmark. So we said, okay, you're going to start replacing these higher numbers with lower numbers, and that's going to bring year-over-year inflation down. And that's really the benchmark of this whole understanding and projection that we're going to be looking at lower rates. Because when we look at CPI, on Valentine's Day, we get the January numbers. So we're going to probably see a lower number here to replace a higher number. February, something similar. March, take a look at it. We had a low bar here, so we may not make much progress in March. But April, May, and June, very high numbers. You get this April number on May 10th. I've got that circled here, and I want to show you why. Because 39.3% of this number is shelter costs. And when you look at shelter costs, if you take a peek at the way that it is in real time, shelter costs are actually decelerating. Right now, you've got rents and owner's equivalent rent coming in much more modestly. But the nature of this is, remember, as you look at CPI, you're giving equal weight to December of 2022 as you were January of 2022. So you're using old data and incorporating it in what's happening with your decisions, right? You're not really
Yep.
looking at real time, because if I looked at just, hey, what's happened over the past quarter, the rate of inflation on the core is like 3%, right? So we're nowhere near 5.7. We're really at around 3. But the way that the Fed looks at it, the way the market's looking at it, is a 5.7, because they're not taking a more real-time view. Now, when we take a look at this and we say, why do we have these boom bust cycles? It's because the Fed, they've always said they're data dependent. Well, data lags, and it takes time for things to take effect. So imagine driving a car down the road. You should be looking further down the road and anticipating. The Fed's certainly not doing that, but they're also not even looking in real time at what's going on. They're looking in the rearview mirror
Yeah, exactly.
at what's happened here to make decisions on what's about. And that's why we crash or we have booms. That's why they missed it with inflation. And they said, oh, it's transitory, because they were data dependent instead of real time dependent and paying attention to inflation going up. And now they're making the exact same mistake
They're
and not looking
overreacting.
at
Yep.
this and looking at this. Okay. So when we look at shelter costs, real time, this is what's happening. But the averaging nature means that they're seeing it like this. So it's actually pushing up CPI. At least 39.3% of CPI is being pushed up when it actually should be coming down. So this next chart gives you the illustration to put it in your mind of what it is. Imagine a roller coaster. When that roller coaster hits a peak, real shelter costs in real time, they're coming down. But the way it's in CPIs, it's pushing it up. Now, when we get to May 10th and get that April data, all this roller coaster is coming down and you're going to see rates come down faster. Now, this is that exact same chart I showed you. It's just placed up here. This shows you the shelter component of it.
Yep.
Okay, so I wanted to put them next to each other because this is going to be almost 40%, 39.3% of this. So we have to kind of look at them together in tandem. Now, the next report we're going to get is February 14th. And while we don't know what it's going to be, it's going to replace February's number of 2022. So we get, January's number. On February 14th, we get January 2022, 2023, which replaces January of
I'm with you.
2022, right?
Yep.
So we get that February 14th. And I like it as far as core CPI because on February 14th, the January 2023 number should be low, replacing a high number for January 2022. But there is a problem. The shelter component, as you could see, is very low. So we may not make as much progress because about 39% of this is going to probably be pushed up.
Do you think MBSs will react to that when they see that accordingly, Barry? Or will just trade flat?
We don't know what the number is going to be, and that'll be important to see what the number is. But time is our friend here. Oh, the more time we get, the better things will look. But we could have a little turbulence. There's also one small little known quirk in January. There's a healthcare adjustment on insurance. That's the January effect, which could amount to about 1/10 of core CPI pressure higher. It just happens every January.
Well, it's good to know when there's turbulence too. And it's like, hey, this isn't like a huge issue. It's not a run that's going to continue. I love it. It's like a heads up. You might have some turbulence. Don't freak out. And you're about to get to the really good news.
So how about when we get February of 2023's number? That's going to come out on March 14th. So March 14th, when we look at this number here, February's number for 2022 was high. So that's good news for us, right? And the shelter cost component was high. So we should make some good progress for the February number. That comes out March 14th. So that should be a good report. When it comes to the report that we're going to get on April 12th for 2023's March report, it's going to replace March of 2022. But look at this, right? March of 2022, low number, similar to what we had seen here, right? So I don't think we'll make too much headway here. Now on the shelter component, we like that. That's why it's green. We like it. But then finally, it's the April data. That's the magic data. We get that on May 10th. So May 10th of this year, we're going to get the new April data for 2023. It's going to replace this April data for 2022. And look at what's going to be replaced. You're going to replace high numbers in shelter. And you can see it's just high numbers. And then high numbers in overall CPI core. So you should see an accelerated drop in inflation. And I think the bond market is really going to like that.
April,
so what
May,
I'm
and
saying
June.
is over the next couple of reports, the one February 14th, March 14th, and April 12th, giving us January, February, and March's numbers, we will replace numbers from 2022 that were high, low. So we got to be on the lookout there. But we get a low number in shelter and a couple of high numbers in shelter. But it really starts to work in our favor. We get a tailwind when we hit the April data on May 10th. That's when it should be great. Now, when do you want to be in the real estate opportunity if you think about it? If I'm going to be buying real estate, I don't want to wait till rates drop and everybody's in this tight. I want to be doing that now. And I want to be doing 2-1 buy downs, permanent buy downs. This is the stuff I want to be doing today because you're going to turn on the spigot. I mean, look, think about it this way, Ryan. Imagine for a minute here, you own a mortgage company. And one of the quickest ways, just 2 quick ways to slow down the pipeline of loans coming in. 1, tighten the guidelines, right? Or 2, obviously, increase rates, right?
That'll do it too.
That'll slow things down. But if I wanted to turn on the spigot and bring in more volume, what's the quickest way I could relax guidelines or I lower rates? You're going to turn on the spigot of additional buyers that are coming in, and they're going to be unleashed into a tight inventory environment. Now, you're also going to get some activity pickup. You're going to get some people that are going to say, hey, I might want to refinance.
I was just going to ask, you got some purchase pickup, but do you think there's going to be refinance opportunities as well?
Yes. So, okay. So stick with the purchase for a minute because one thing I left out is if you have somebody's got a 3% rate today and they say, I really like that home. I want to get it, but man, I'm going to pony up for the home, but then I'm giving up 3% and I'm going to today 6. I mean, last
Yeah.
2 months ago was 7, right? Uh, but if you get down to 5 or 4 3/4, my desire to have that home and be happy may override the fact that I'm
Yeah.
giving up 3%.
Yep. Great
So
point.
I'm not everybody's going to do it, but certainly some will. Refis, when you get some pickup. Well, we know credit cards are at our highest level. We know that all these loans, which have been cranked up on debt service by higher interest rates, are at high levels. So if I want to pull cash out of my home because the average is 58% of a home's value is equity, I've got the money there. I could pay off the debt. It's smart to do. So how do I do it? Do I do a home equity loan? That might help. I keep my 3% rate, but wait a minute. That home equity loan, I'm paying 8. So if I'm borrowing $20,000 cash out, I'm taking the home equity.
Sure.
But if I'm borrowing a lot of money in cash out and it's a big number relative to the first mortgage, if I got a $400,000 first and I'm taking 200 in cash out, I'm going to refinance the whole thing to 5. I'm going to give up my 3 and go to 5 because it's just a better idea to do so than pay 8 on $200,000.
And you better have Barry's debt consolidation tool to help you make that decision, right?
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank
Yes.
you for that. Yes, we do help make that very, very clear.
Yes.
So you should see a pickup. So I know a lot of people are worried right now, but it's right around the corner. And the time to lean in is now. Get this word out. Help your real estate agent because all they heard is housing bubble and all they heard is about crash and inflation and it's all working in our favor. The time to see the opportunities isn't after it happened, it's before it. You have to see the future before it becomes obvious.
For sure. Well, it's really helpful, man. That's really good. I know the show yesterday or last week was really interesting with Garth. And I know right now, guys, things probably don't feel good, especially if you're an owner, you're an executive, you're looking at your P&Ls and they're just L's, they're not P's right now. So, and again, 40% contraction. I loved having Barry on today because as he always says, rates go up on an escalator, they go down on an escalator. So knowing there's maybe a few turbulent months, but some really, really good news, that helps me as a leader go, okay, I can navigate. I can see what's coming better now. Thanks to Barry. I can talk to my teams. This is a really good show. If you're an executive, to play with everybody, help them understand that, and then lead through it. One of the best, ways I can leverage Barry is always coming in, bringing a calmness, bringing a vision for us to follow to go, guys, yeah, it's tough right now, but it's starting to look better. You take an app today, it may not lock for 30 days. It may not close for another 30 days, guys. So it's coming. Applications are ticking up. Sure, it's from all-time lows, but it's getting better. You talked about the builder sentiment today on your show. That's improving. Demand's still strong. So, after talking with you today, Barry, yeah, 23, started off a little scary, but I feel a bit more positive. I feel like I got a better vision of what's coming, man.
Yeah, we may be in a recession or we may be headed for one. Now, we know that rates drop during recessions. So, what's the negative about a recession? It's the unemployment rate that ticks up. Okay, so we have a 3.5% unemployment rate today that might go to 4.25%, 4.5%. If we're either in a recession or headed for a recession, that's bad. So we have 1% more of individuals out there that unfortunately lost their jobs. So that amounts to a million and a half people. That's not good. But many of those people were not in the home buying market. Many of those people have already purchased a home. So there's not a
Great
very
point.
large segment of that would be ready to buy a
Yes.
home.
Great
Now,
point.
what happens on the flip side? If rates came down another 1.25%, 1.5%, then forget a million and a half people. You take 15 million people
Yeah.
now come into the marketplace as potential buyers. Okay, maybe some of them are couples or whatever. So you maybe pair them and cut them in half. But still, it's millions of people that come into the marketplace now that can buy or that have activity that's going on and
Yep.
potentially become refinance customers. So you have to think of this in the scope of what it is. Many people just point to the negative without doing the work and understanding what's behind the numbers and where the results could be.
Yeah. Realtors, circle that date. You heard it first from Barry. And he, go back. And if you didn't really understand it, go back and watch it again. If then still grab another good loan officer that follows Barry, follows the RE source, they'll help you understand it. It's something that you really need to understand so that you can articulate that to your client. Barry's right. You don't want to wait to get in the game, May 10th. It's going to be too late. You want to be ready now. So Barry, well, I'll give you the last word, man. That was amazing. Thank you for walking us through that. I understand it better now because of you.
Oh, brother, I know it's a little heavy, but here's the thing. Look, past couple of years when I was so busy, it was really more about how can I manage all these loans coming in, right? That's a challenge in of
Which is
itself. We have
difficult,
different challenges today.
Yeah.
So you have to elevate your game. You have to be the best version of yourself right now, and just be skillful and a master of your craft. And you're up to the task. I mean, and if you do that, you'll be rewarded. I mean, here's what I want people to just remember about the mortgage business, okay, and even the real estate business too. Is let's just say if you were blessed and you were doing, I don't know, 7, 8 transactions a month, okay, 6 transactions, 7, 8, 10 transactions a month. That was a very, very, very big income probably for many people. But if you're down to 2 transactions a month or 3 transactions a month on the mortgage side, or 1 or 2 as a real estate agent, you wind up making more than 85% of American workers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I want you're still in the top 15% of income earners in the
Good
country.
perspective.
If you make $100,000
Yeah.
a year, and that's, 1 to 2 transactions as a realtor, 2 to 3 transactions as a mortgage professional. I know it depends, it varies, but I'm just saying by and large, depending on average loan amounts, it's like the Godfather 3, just when you thought you might be getting out, they suck you back in. So, but you will see greater activity than that. It's do not quit. Do not get discouraged. Do not withdraw. This is the time for you to lean in and not out, because good things are happening. They're around the corner. Look, everything we said was going to happen, Ryan. We're watching it play through in real time, right? Every single thing we said was going to happen has been happening. And I have complete conviction that we will see those rates drop further as inflation drops further, and this activity will pick up, and real estate values will pick up, and we will be in a really good place.
Not only don't quit, but elevate your game. Step it up.
Lean in.
Lenders have access to Barry at a high level, and they understand this. If I'm a realtor, I'm elevating my game and separating myself from the pack by also having an MBS subscription, understanding this better than my peers, and then casting that vision out for my clients. If you're a realtor and you don't have an account, dude, go get it tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, this is not just a lender tool. Barry, you've built that out. I'm not just, patting you on the back because we're buddies and you're on here, but what you've done with MBS Highway is really, really impressive. The tools that you continue to add, you never rest, which you absolutely could, man. You could go off into retirement right now and call it a day. So good on you, but you don't rest. There's always another tool. And man, if you're a realtor and if you're a lender and you're thinking about like pinching pennies, the last thing you want to do is pinch pennies on the MBS Highway. So if you're a realtor, jump in there, get your own subscription.
Wait till you see what we're building. It's very, very exciting. It's very exciting. We acquired List Reports, and we're putting together something with List Reports.
I know. I'm excited to get that show out.
It's something that's incredible.
We'll do another one. We'll unpack that one once you're ready. I knew you did that. I've been waiting to see what that looks like myself. So once you're ready, we'll have you back on and highlight that, bud. Appreciate you. Have fun in Vegas. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for squeezing us in.
Be well and be optimistic. There's reason to be.
Appreciate that. Have a good one, guys. See you next week.